Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm Marcus Devrel at Edge and Node, and I hope everyone's doing very well. I am here to introduce Enol. He is part of the Streaming Fast DevRel crew, and he's going to be going over Substreams and the CLI updates. However, before we get into that, I always want to shout out to the Builders DAO. And if anyone here wants to build subgraphs or substreams better, go ahead and check out buildersdao.tech. They are awesome. So if everyone's aware of Builders DAO, I've done my job. And with that being said, I want to bring in Enol. How you doing, man? Welcome to Builders Office Hours. We're about 3 minutes early before starting, so we can just hang out and we can just enjoy our time.
Sure.
How you doing, Enol? Tell me about yourself. Tell the audience about yourself.
Well, I am. Well, first of all, I'm based in Spain, right? I'm a developer. Well, I used to be a full stack developer, a strict developer. I used to work, with, mainly backend. I've also done a little bit of front end, but mainly backend. And then I moved into the exciting world of the dev and well, it's been pretty good. Like it's been, I don't know, interesting. Like you see developing from from a different point of view, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Helping people with issues, presenting content, evangelizing people than writing core products. For
Could you speak a little bit louder? It's a little bit quiet.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit more. That's better.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, yeah, that's basically me. I'm based in Spain. I joined Streamfast. I think it was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, like Streamfast is one of the core development teams of the graph. Marcus belongs to Node. We have a Streamfast. Well, we have a bunch of Pinax, a bunch of other teams that are part of the what we call core development teams, but we all part of the same.
Yep.
We are building the same community. We are building the same products for the same audience, right? But Streaming Fast and Pinax specifically, we are a little bit more focused on substreams, right? So I don't know if I should start maybe introducing the product a little bit, or
Yeah, go
should I
ahead,
go?
man.
Yeah,
If anyone in the audience doesn't know about Streaming Fast and Substreams,
yeah.
this is the time.
Everyone here knows about subgraphs. Most of them, I guess, like they know about substreams. It's one of the product that we have for indexing. The main difference is that with Substance you take like a stream based indexing. Then with Subgraphs you take like a more polling API based indexing, right? So there are three reasons why you would want to use Substreams, right? Which again is like a different indexing technology, but can be integrated into subgraphs very easily, and we will see it afterwards. But there are three main reasons why you may use it. The first one is because you want to maybe speed up the indexing time of your subgraphs, right? For most cases, like Substreams can help you, speed up the indexing time of your subgraph. This is because of the parallelization engine and model that we have in the backend. Okay. The second reason why you may be interested in using it is because you may want to access like data that is not provided in subgraphs currently. Like I'm thinking about internal calls, balance
Yep.
changes, storage changes, like more granular, node related data that maybe is not currently supported in subgraphs. Or the third one is because we have recently been integrated a lot of non-EVM chains, right? I'm thinking about Solana, I'm thinking about Injective, I'm thinking about coming soon like a Startnet or Vara. So all non-EVM integrations will go through Substreams, right? Will require like a Firehose integration and will make Substreams available. But the good part is that we have what we call Substreams power subgraphs, right? So this is the way we can bridge between substreams and subgraphs, okay, very easily. And again, we are working on tools to make it even easier, and that's what I'm going to show you like in a few minutes. But
Mhm.
essentially, substreams power subgraphs are subgraphs that have substreams as a data source, right? Whenever you put like your data sources in the subgraph, there is an option to use the substreams, right? It's a specific type that you can put in your subgraph manifest in your subgraph.yaml.
Mhm.
We will see it in a few minutes. So this is essentially a substreams power subgraph, a subgraph that is powered by the substreams technology, okay, and that can again like allow you to either speed up your indexing times, allows you to get more data that is currently not supported by subgraphs, like calls, internal calls, maybe a little bit more of gas information, storage changes, a little bit more of those information, that information.
Mhm.
And non-EVMs, right? Like if you're going to work with a non-EVM, like you should use and the only way to do non-EVMs currently is using substreams. So it's the
Mhm.
case with Solana or with Injective or with Starknet or with Bar or more coming soon, right? So yeah, that's essentially what substreams are. And we currently have like a different CLI. We are all well, most of you, all of you, I guess, are aware of the Graph CLI. We have a different CLI, substream CLI, that has like different tooling for creating substreams or substreams power subgraphs. Because I think I didn't mention it, but like it's not a requirement to use like
Mhm.
subgraphs or to use substreams power subgraphs. Like what
Yeah,
we
because they
are,
can
what
sync wherever you'd like.
exactly like what we're trying to do here with the graph is like serving the user, right? So
Mhm.
understanding what the user's needs are, and like, okay, do you want a hosted solution, right? Well, go for subgraphs, right? Because like you will have a
Mhm.
hosted, like we will host the network, we'll host data for you, right? You will have access to a graphic QL API. You can query it. It's so easy to integrate it, especially into front end applications, right? Like JavaScript, TypeScript.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to send the data directly to your Postgres database, maybe to a database? Well, we have the option and options to do that. Do you want to, I don't know, host the execution, maybe because you have like very specific use cases for your application? Well, we also have that option, right? So it's basically
Mhm.
adapting to the user needs. Again, like it's like you have the option, right? We have
Yeah.
people like building substreams power servers. We have people using directly Postgres. We have people streaming directly, like in JavaScript, for instance, with the JavaScript library.
Yep.
So it's really up to the user.
Yeah, and it's so modular too. There's a lot of modules already built. So if anyone wants to hop in and just start building, I think Streaming Fast has done a very good job at thinking long term
Oh
and
yeah,
helping builders out. So let's dive into the updates that
yeah,
the Streaming Fast team has done with the CLI. I'm curious what's been going on with you guys.
yeah. I'm sharing my screen here, and actually I'm going
Awesome.
to show you. You talk about modularity, and it's true. Like we have this substreams.dev website, right, where you can find a lot of like already built modules that you can just use, right? And we in Streaming Fast, we have done like a good job, I guess, on creating these foundational modules. Like for instance, for Solana, we have this Solana common module, which essentially extracts the most basic Solana data, right? Filtering data by program IDs, by accounts. So like you don't have to code it yourself, right? So we've done like a level of abstraction so that people just have to like plug it in and use it, right? And that's what I'm going to
Mhm.
show you right now. But yeah, here in substreams.dev, you have like different options. You can browse and you can search for the packages that I'm pretty sure like someone has built something for you, and if not, like we are always happy to help you and to onboard you into your technology if you want to do something like more specific, right? I'm going to jump directly into the CLI here. um, because as I told you, we have like a different CLI. Okay,
Can you make it a
uh,
little bit bigger? Can you make the text a little larger?
yeah. Hopefully, I can hear a little bit better
That's
now.
good. Yeah, that's better.
Actually, okay. Okay. So you're all aware of the Graph CLI, right? We have the same thing for Substreams, the Substream CLI. Again, if you're running it on Mac, you can do brew install Substreams. You're gonna get it, right? You can get it like from source, like you can get it from GitHub. But if you're on Mac, like the easiest way is doing it through brew. And we have a bunch of commands here that allow you to develop in Substreams. But the most important one when you want to get started is like the Substreams init command. Well, Marcus also has a video on this thing. So if you want more information,
I'll share that in chat.
sure. Yeah, exactly. You can share it there, and it's specific for Solana, right? So here you have like you can think about all these options as templates, right? You can create templates for a bunch of different options and projects. We have for EVMs, we have for Solana, we have for Injective, for Starknet, for Vara, right? We usually have this what we call minimals. These minimals is basically we create the most basic structure of a Substreams for you, but you have to code it yourself, right? And then we get into the more granular thing, like, okay, maybe I want to filter by events and calls, right? We have like gathered what are the different basic use cases that usually people want, right? Usually people in EVMs want like events and calls, right? Usually people in Solana want like filtering on program IDs or accounts. On Vara, usually people want to filter on strings, which is like a specific thing of Vara. So we have basically gathered like what are the different like options that people usually want. Like for instance, Solana, we are doing like a big push this quarter and next year, like trying to facilitate the Solana community, the onboarding into the graph. And Marcus has a video on it. We have documentation on it. But for the moment, just for the example, I'm going to show you like EVMs, because like I guess like that's really what most people here in this chat are aware of, right? But don't hesitate to testing the Solana thing, and getting back with feedback. But let's say we want to index like events and calls, right? In Ethereum, for instance, right? Okay, we can choose like EVM events and calls. We can give a name to a project. We can choose the chain among the supported chains. Let's say we want to do it in Ethereum mainnet. And here we can input a smart contract address, right? Just for the sake of the example, let's say we go here and we search for USDC, right? It's an ERC20. Let's copy here and let's input. Okay, so what this is going to do, well, it's basically fetching the API from Etherscan. You can review if this is the actual API that you want to index. If you just say yes. An initial block number. Let's take one of them, most recent block numbers. Let's say this one. And here you're just asked like to give a name to the contract, because like you can index several contracts, right?
So far, this feels quite familiar with subgraphs.
Yeah, it's pretty like, yeah, it's pretty similar. The only thing is like I think calls are not supporting subgraphs. So here you have the option to do events and calls, one or the other or both. And here you have the option to check like if this is a factory contract, right? Like for instance, if we go to Uniswap, Uniswap P3 has a factory contract, right? If I can find it here. Well, I cannot find it here. Well, whatever it's called. But whoever is like familiar with Uniswap, like Uniswap has a factory contract which is used to create other smart contracts for the pools in Uniswap, right? So if you wanted, for instance, to index this kind of factory contracts, like you can input it here, and you will be getting like calls and bans for the factory contract itself and for all the child contracts that this factory contract is creating, right? So in this case, this is not a factory contract. This is like a simple example. Let's say we just want to track the USDC contract. And here we are asking if you
And this
want to
feature's
start.
been in there for a while, correct?
Yeah, it's been here for a while. The factory control,
Mhm.
yeah. We choose like if we want to create another contract. No. Okay, so you basically here get like a like a very simple Substreams project, right? With everything generated for you, everything code gen for you, right? So if we open here this in Visual Studio Code, you will see. Well, for those of you that are not which are not aware of the Substreams structure, let's say it's kind of similar to subgraph, but here in Substance we actually use Rust instead of TypeScript. Sorry, instead of AssemblyScript to build the transformations. But we also have like a Substance manifest, a Substance.yaml, where we define the modules. Okay, in this case, you can think of a module as a Rust function, basically an input and output, right? Something that receives an input. In this case, this module receives like a full Ethereum block, right? And you can extract whichever data you want from this Ethereum block, and creates an output, which is an events object, okay, which is defined here. This is like your subgraph schema, right? Now, in this case,
Mhm.
this is all auto-generated for you. You don't have to do anything. Like if like you're gonna be tracking like calls and events for the USDC contract, right? If you don't want to change anything here, you don't have to. You can just simply do Substance build. This is going to build for you, okay? Now, in case you want to actually dive deep into the code and you want to modify something, like it's here, right? It's Rust code. It's not as difficult as it looks, right? But again, like you don't have to, right? Here are all the events and all the calls that are in the API of the USDC smart contract. So you can just use it and you can just input this into your subgraph, right? There's no need for you to touch, a single line of Rust. So yeah,
And that's a
here in
big
the
thing because,
yeah,
I mean, I've heard, for a while with a few developers, oh man, I got to learn Rust. And now that's not even an issue anymore.
no, it's not anymore, and we're like again we are trying like to make it like as you said, like most of the time, like people will say like, okay, the friction is on the Rust part, right? Okay, we are software developers, we know AssemblyScript, we are fine creating AssemblyScript code, but we are not Rust developers, right? And again, like Rust, I wouldn't say it's a difficult language, but it scares most people, right? um so yeah, what we are trying to do with this coaching is basically like, okay, people don't have to actually write a Rust code, right? They can just get the data that they want by inputting into the coaching. Okay, so we have this thing built, um, and now we can simply like stream it, right? If we do Substance GUI, what the GUI is basically like a visual tool, right, to see the data. You can see here, you can start streaming here, and you see the data here, right? See the approvals, the calls. You can move between blocks here. You see, you can even search. Well, you have a bunch of options that if you click in your keyboard the question mark, you will see here all the options that you have. You can search. You can move across modules. You can move across blocks. Right. This is like a debugging tool that we have for Substance itself that you are not required to use, but that is good. Uh, to see if this is the actual data that you are looking for, right? Before plugging it into your subgraph, if you want to plug it into your subgraph, again, like it's not mandatory, right? Um, okay, so we have here, and well, this has like a bunch of features, right? Like you can put like a start block, you can put like a stop block. Like we have documentation on this, um, and it's pretty easy to get started with the GUI. Okay, so just to recap a little bit, what we've done here is basically what we have here in the README, right? Building the project. Well, I didn't do the auth part. I didn't authenticate because I was already authenticated. But if you are not, like, just do Substance
And we're on
auth.
live stream.
Yeah, exactly. maybe
Does it
maybe
hide the
Yeah,
I
it
believe it
does.
hides that, doesn't it? Yeah, it does.
Well, half of it. So yeah, I could say it's safe enough, but yeah, we are live. Uh, but yeah, just do substance off. You are going to be like you're going to get to a website, like just log in there, get the key, and that's it, right? It's called the graph.market, right? Um, so yeah, just go there and authenticate. And then what I've done is like the substance GUI, which is basically to see the data, right? Okay, so all these Rust code, all these schema definitions, all these things, right? All these substance YAML here, all these things are packed into what we call DSPKG, right? So DSPKG here is like a binary, like a binary file. Well, it's not like a binary, it's a binary file that basically contains the definitions, the schema, the manifest, everything contained within this binary file, right? And this can be used by a bunch of applications, right? By your by your Postgres database. Maybe your Postgres database wants to read from this SPKG to get the data directly into a database. It can be used by, I don't know, a streaming library, right? Like one of the Go, Rust, JavaScript libraries that we have for Substreams, and it is also read by the subgraph, right? This is what the subgraph reads, sorry, to get the data into the API, into the GraphQL API. So now to create a subgraph from these substreams, again, we haven't touched a single line of code, right? And we can use this Cogen, substreams Cogen. Remember, before we used the substreams init, we are now using the substreams Cogen command to create like a subgraph template. Okay, we can simply do it, and it's gonna ask us like, okay, what module do you want to use? Remember, the modules are defined here, right? So we have map events. This is only for events. Map calls. This is only for calls, and we have map events and calls, right? And as you can see, the map events and calls receives as input the map events and calls, right? So it's basically merging both events and calls, right? So in this case, let's say we want to use like the map events and calls, right? We want to have both into the subgraph. And a new folder has been created here, right? It's the subgraph folder. Okay. We can move into the subgraph folder and we can install the dependencies. We can do npm install. Something that we haven't done yet, but we are looking to do like in the upcoming months, is like auto-generating the mappings.ts, right? Right now the mappings.ts is like a jamming file, right? That that does not generate a schema, does not generate the mappings. You have to code it yourself based on the output of the substreams, right? So this is not auto-generated for the moment. Should be auto-generated like in the upcoming months. But right now, like we realized the friction was on the Rust part. So we put all our efforts into the Rust part, and now we are going to take it a step, a little bit, another step of abstraction, and getting the substreams output to be auto generated also in the mappings.ts. Okay. But as you can see, this is like a normal subgraph, right? You have a data source, which is substreams, and here in the source, you simply select DSPKG. This is the binary file I was talking about before. This is where all the definitions are contained, and you can see it's here, right? So this is simply pointing to the root folder of the project, right? This is saying, okay, take the definitions from here, right? From this SPKG, from this file, and use this module. Again, this module was defined here, right? Map event and calls. So basically what subgraph is going to do is like, okay, I'm going to read the data from here, and I'm going to allow you to have a specific trigger where you can do your aggregations, or you can do your mappings, or you can do whatever you want with it, right? Okay, so for the sake of time, I have here the mappings.ts created that I did just before this call, and I'm going to show you here. Basically, let's say I want to do like, well, first of all, you have all the events and all the calls, right? Here I'm taking like just for the sake of time, like an event and a call, right? I'm taking the transfer event and I'm taking the approve call, right? So
Mhm.
essentially, this is the schema I created for the subgraph. I can simply like put it here. As you can see, the transfer contains a from, a to, and a value, right? Just like a usual EVM schema. And the approve contains the spender and the value, right? So, and again, like a pretty standard EVM schema. And then for the mappings.ts, it's also a very simple mappings.ts. Um, just gonna copy paste it here, and we can take a look at the code. But it's pretty simple. What I'm basically, well, the data gets here. Okay, these are the bytes that get outputted by the substreams. And so what we are doing here is basically decoding that data. Decoding it into what? Well, decoding it into the output of the substreams, which is again defined in the SPKG. Let me share. Okay, here. This contains the protobuf's output, which is similar to the schema, to the subgraph schema. Okay. And what we are basically doing here is, okay, so we are importing it, right? You see these substreams here is outputting an events and calls object, right? You see it here. Where's the definition of these events and calls? In the proto folder here. Here, events and calls, right? This is like your substreams schema, okay? So what we are basically doing now in the subgraph is running run generate npm run generate, and what this is going to do is, okay, it's gonna do this, the graph code gen, right? So it's gonna generate the graph schema for you. So so basically the output of the subgraph is like a normal subgraph, graph code gen, and it's also going to create the structures of the substreams, right? The structures that are outputted by the substreams. If we run it, you will see the commands that it's running. It's running cogen and protogen. Cogen is your usual like graph cogen, and then we have protogen, which is basically buff generate. Well, this is a specific protobuf thing. But again, you have to know nothing about it, right? This is like transparent to your user. I'm just explaining it, to give a little bit of context. But if you just run npm install and npm run generate, that's it. Like, you don't have to do anything else, right? So now we have access in our mappings.ts to the substreams output. And what is the substreams output? Again, like this event calls, right? You see, you have access to the assembly script object, and you can extract the data from there, right? So again, these handle triggers, which is defined here, right? This is actually defined in the subgraph manifest. Receive some bytes, right? Some raw data that you can decode into the event and calls object, right? To get access to the actual data, to the actual normalized data, right? And these events and calls, as you can see, has calls and events, right? This object, you can access both calls and events. Okay, so what I'm doing here basically is, okay, first I'm verifying that the events are not null, okay, and if they are not null, I'm simply like calling a handle events function, and the same for the calls, right? Now inside the handle events, all I'm doing is receiving the events here, the events object, which again is is one of the outputs of the substreams that you can access in assembly script. And for every event, I'm simply iterating over the events. For every event, or better to say, for every transfer event, because here I'm focusing on the transfer events. For every transfer event, I'm simply creating an entity, which is a transfer event, which is the entity we defined here, right? And I'm saving that entity. And it's the same thing I'm doing for calls, right? So very simple, mappings.ts, nothing fancy. But again, like, this can work, as difficult as, or as complex as you want, right? once you have the data from the substreams in the subgraph, you are building really like a normal subgraph. So you can do whichever you want with the data there. You can add all the options that are available in subgraphs. It's totally up to you, right? What we are really like providing with the substreams is we are either providing you with more data than the subgraph itself. We are either speeding up your subgraph, or we are either providing non-EVM data, right? But it's totally up to you what to do when you have that data. And this can be deployed as a normal subgraph. Like you can do graph build first to verify everything is correct, and then you can do graph deploy, and you can deploy to the studio, or you can deploy to a local graph node, or you can deploy to a network, or it's like a normal subgraph. Anyway, here in the scripts, in the package.json, we have several scripts that may be useful for you. Generate, again, like runs codegen and protogen. This is basically to generate the schemas. Deploys to a local graph node if you have a local graph node running, right? We also have like a dev container for that. If you want to try it out. If not, like I feel like most people are comfortable deploying to the studio. Well, you can deploy to the studio in most chains. I think the only one that is not supported is Injective. The only I think it's the only one. Injective is the only one that does not have like a graph studio support. So in that case, you will have to test in a local graph node before deploying to the network. And yeah, we have like a bunch of here like utility scripts. Okay, so this was built, and now we can do graph deploy. You can give it a name, a version, and that's it. That's going to go directly into the studio. Now, for the sake of time, I have also here the studio with an already indexed subgraph, which is the same thing we've done, but already indexed. And here's the data, right? So it's, as you can see, a normal subgraph. We are just making like life easier, to developers, in that bridge, between substreams and subgraphs, right? But what I want people to take away from this call is, okay, once I have the data from the substreams, it's like a normal subgraph. You can do whatever you want, right? And we are like providing tools to make that friction part, which is the Rust part, which is like creating the substreams itself, making easier that part so that developers can actually like start creating their subgraphs, right?
And that's such a big
this,
asset to not have to use Rust for a lot of developers who are still getting going. I mean, I'm learning Rust, I'm getting better at it, but yeah, TypeScript, JavaScript.
I don't like it. I personally don't like it. So I understand it. Most people wouldn't like it, right? So that's a fact, right? So
I kind of like it. I'm learning it. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I mean, like actually, like Substreams is WASM based, right? So basically, it's like a virtual machine. So you can really build Substreams in any language, right? And we have examples of building Substreams in Go, or even in it will be possible to build it in TypeScript. Now the thing is like the speed, right? The speed of those languages, right? So Rust is the most efficient language, for at least for the WASM integration. Go is not bad. Okay, we've tested Go before, and it's not bad. But we've tested like with JavaScript, TypeScript, AssemblyScript, the speed, it's much worse. That's the only reason we haven't implemented Substreams in AssemblyScript. Okay, and that's the reason why we are using Rust. But again, like theoretically, it will be possible to open, to other languages, and maybe in the future, like if we see like, a lot of demand, from developers, maybe we might be doing it, right? But not for the moment. So for the moment, we are focusing on reducing the friction on that part. That's it. Now this is especially important for non-EVMs, and I want to cover a little bit more on Solana here. Because we are preparing this year a little bit more of events, a little bit to be more present in the Solana ecosystem. And right now for Solana, if you go to Substreams init, Oh, let me create another folder here. Okay, so right now, if you go to Substreams init, you have the option to create a Solana a Solana project. Okay, to get a Solana transaction, the raw Solana transactions, um, and you let's say here a random block, and you can filter by program ID and by accounts, right? This is for Solana specifically, because of the Solana data model, right? Um, so we give you the option to filter by program ID and to filter by account, but we realize this is not enough, right? This is not enough for people, especially now in Solana. There is like a specific standardization process, of the programs. So what we are looking for to support in the upcoming weeks, hopefully it will be ready by DevCon, but we don't know. But hopefully it will be ready by DevCon, but I don't know. Um, is Anchor IDLs, right? So right now, what we are doing with this filtering is, okay, we are providing you the raw data with Solana, right? It's the same with with ABIs in EVM chains, right? Okay, if you don't have the ABI, it's impossible to decode the bytes, right? Because you don't know how are you decoding those bytes, right? So you need some sort of standardization to decode that data and to make actual data useful, right? Because getting random bytes is not useful at all, right? So it's the same thing with Solana, right? You can get the random bytes, you can get the raw bytes. Now, if you don't know how to decode those bytes, it's useless. So that's what we are trying to do with the Anchor IDL decoding. We've noticed like a lot of programs in Solana, more and more are using Anchor. Anchor is basically a standardization protocol. You can think of it as a protocol, standardization protocol, the same as the ABIs. Well, specifically for Solana, it's called Anchor IDLs, where you define your instructions, you define your events, and you define a bunch of other types that you want to create in your Solana program. So the idea is, okay, you input that IDL, that JSON IDL for Solana, and we do all the heavy lifting on the backend. Okay, we create we basically coach and all the instructions and all the events, and you basically get the decoded data right away, right? And this is going to be pretty useful in subgraphs because for the moment, first of all, for context, Solana smart contracts, which are called Solana programs, are built in Rust, right? So people building on Solana are not afraid of Rust as much, as the ABM community, right? So Substreams solves the part of, maybe directly importing your smart contract into the Substreams, and decoding the data there, right? But more and more, we've seen like people that maybe are not Rust developers or are not, building smart contracts on Solana, wanting to get the data, right? So the idea is not only importing the smart contracts into the Rust code, but from a JSON IDL, the same way as we do it for an EVM ABI, right? From a JSON IDL, we generate all the structures and we generate all the instructions and events that you can use in the subgraph. Again, because like decoding that data in assembly script is not easy, right? Decoding that data in Rust is a little bit more a little bit easier because like smart contracts in Solana are built in Rust. So you are using the same language, you're using the same libraries, so it's a little bit more easier, right? But decoding all that information in assembly script is not easy at all. So what we are looking for is like, okay, to facilitate the life of software developers, because we want people to build software from Solana, and we want people to be consuming Solana. I mean, whether they do it with Substance on its own or whether they do it with Subgraph in the network, we want people to be to have the different options, right?
Cool.
So yeah, that's what's coming, like 3 weeks. Like we are testing it, we are building it, we are testing it. So maybe 3 weeks, it's gonna be enough to have it ready. And yeah, it's probably going to be like a big announcement that we're gonna do, hopefully. And it's gonna be
Yes.
useful,
Timing,
like
timing, timing.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's gonna be useful to the Solana community. Again, like the Solana community is, you know, a little bit different, you know, from the EVM community. So we are still discovering. You know, the graph has been like very EVM centric in the past. So we are, you know, discovering what our communities look like. But yeah, like we are super excited about, you know, about this Solana push and, you know, creating tools
Yeah.
for Solana subgraphs.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and get to know a new ecosystem and how they function, and how the graph substreams, all of it can be supportive of each other. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I got
like,
a question in chat here.
yeah.
Can standard subgraph data source and events be used alongside triggers in the subgraph?
Not for the moment. That's a limitation on the graph node. It's not possible to use subgraphs and substreams at the same time currently. Um, I don't know if there's like I don't know if there's maybe talks about supporting both. I, I I don't know how difficult it would be, to be honest. Like uh, we would need like a graph node engineer here to discuss these things, but it's not for the moment, unfortunately. Now,
Okay.
what we were trying.
And there's a response in chat saying this is the determinism issue. Right.
Yeah, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
probably I don't have enough context into the graph node to know which are the causes. So I don't. So maybe it's not
Yeah,
easy.
that would make sense.
Or
Just too much manipulation potentially.
yeah, probably. So maybe it's not even possible at all, right? Um. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's a limitation. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Well, with you sharing, what's coming up with Solana and all of this, I wanted to ask, what's the more recent features of the CLI that really have excited you and just made the DevX better for you personally?
Well, the fact that we have created like a lot of foundational modules for extracting this most basic data on Solana or in Starknet on Bar, like any new chain that we integrate, we create this foundational module, right? It's like a part of the done, before done things that you have to do, right?
Right.
So I think this facilitates life a lot for developers. Then this coaching thing, like as I showed you, we have this coaching subgraph, but we also have this coaching
That's very
SQL,
nice.
right? In the case that you don't only want to create like a subgraph, you want to create like a SQL project, right?
Yep.
Now
Very nice.
Something we want to do is like, again, we want to do like dynamically creating the mappings.ts, right? I think that's the next step. That could be super useful. Again, because like for instance, this is smart contract. Like if you take a look, has like a bunch. You see, it's like a bunch of events and calls that if you have to do the mappings yourself, like obviously it's not difficult, but it's time that you are spending on something that is trivial, right? It's trivial from a developer point of view, not from the coaching point of view, because obviously it requires a little bit more of a little bit more of code. But from the developer point of view, it's trivial. So yeah, definitely like having like dynamically created all these structures could be like super helpful, and that's probably the next step we are going to be taking. But also we are looking for like feedback on this CLI. We are looking for people to test it, especially non-EVMs, because like the graph is like pretty new on non-EVM support, right? So even the documentation is pretty much like EVM centric, right? So obviously we are looking for feedback and documentation on CLI, DevX in general, to make it like easier for not only for EVMs but also for Solana, for Starknet, for Barra, for whoever is coming.
So could I ask where people should send their feedback? Should they send it to you? Is there a form? What would be best?
Usually it's Discord.
Discord?
Discord people complaining. We usually
that's the Graph's Discord here.
Yeah, I mean it's like you can use the Graph Discord. There's a specific channel which is called Substreams within the Graph Discord. We also have the Streaming Fast Discord. I think we also have like a channel for indexers specifically, because there are like a lot of indexers using the Substreams and the Firehose technology, right? And now Firehose and Substreams will be open to for indexers if they start like, for instance, indexing Solana, right? I know there are some
Mhm.
indexers interested in indexing Solana themselves, right? Running, the whole
Mhm.
stack. So we have like these Substreams and these indexer, Firehose indexer channels, and
Mhm.
we usually take notes. We usually take notes of these, complaints, right? Maybe, I mean, like, we
Mhm.
usually, it's not like we always take note, but maybe it's not a priority at the moment, right? So we put it in a backlog,
Mhm.
and we revisit this backlog like every quarter, and that's when we decide, like, okay, this priority goes first, than the other, right? It's what happened,
Mhm.
mainly with this substance coding subgraph. Like, okay, we know we have to like create this dynamic, mappings.ts, right? But
Mhm.
we've had like a lot of other priorities at the moment, which are more on the substance experience, right? On the Rust experience, creating less friction on that side, rather than the TypeScript experience, which is pretty much like known, or you know
Mhm.
yeah, used among developers in the community. But yeah,
Mhm.
we take note of those complaints and suggestions and feedback, and we appreciate
Yep.
it.
Hop into Discord and go ahead and let everyone know what you're feeling, devs out there, especially about Substreams. Feedback is very helpful.
Hopefully,
So, I'll give you last little word here. If there's anything else that you want to do beyond asking for feedback, is there anything else devs can do out there to help out Substreams, Solana, the graph? What would you like the devs in the
building
audience to be doing right now?
building the best thing a
Building.
developer can do is building. I mean, like,
Love it.
the best thing a developer can do to support the ecosystem is building. And again, like, especially like for EVM developers, because I guess like most of the people listening here are EVM developers. Just take a step further and maybe try non-EVMs. Maybe try Solana, maybe try Starknet, maybe try Barra. Like, getting to know other other data models, other blockchains, uh, whether it's just like for your own knowledge, or maybe because you are working
Mm,
on an application or an app that maybe requires you to get that knowledge, right? Because we have seen like a lot of more and more, especially with Solana, we are seeing like more and more dapps wanting to integrate into Solana, right?
hmm.
So I think so I think non-EVMs, or at least some non-EVMs, are going to be like really powerful in the future, and we are
Hmm.
looking to again, like, to support all the communities, and the more feedback, the more testing that we get from our community before we reach those communities, the better.
Sure.
Because obviously we are going to find bugs, we are going to find like maybe better ways of doing things, and
Hmm.
obviously it's better to get tested by your you know primary users, by the users that have been with you for years, than by newcomers, or
Yeah.
directly. So just keep building. And thank you
Keep building.
for
Love it.
and thank you for keep building it.
Yes, thank you, builders out there. Keep on building, keep on going. And, I want to thank you for your time. You've always been a good friend, and I really enjoy seeing you in person and also seeing you here.
Thank you so
So,
much.
for all builders out there, keep on building for Web3, for the graph, for Enol, and let's have a good time out there. So, thank you for your time, everyone,
Thank you.
and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so
And
much.
so, go ahead and stay on if you can. I'm gonna stop the stream. Take care, everyone. All right. That went really well, man.